Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined with the one and only Sugar Shane Caldwell. Very excited to be doing this KBO show with Sugar Shane. How are you tonight, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm loving crunching the numbers with the KBO guys. This is kind of like a crazy slate because it's so chalky. I always talk about, how are we going to are we going to eat the chalk? We're going to fade the chalk and what we're looking for. So this is actually a really exciting slate to look at for KBO. So excited to give everyone some good tips here.
Absolutely. And it's always fun coming in on a really hot 2 game win streak to or 2 day slate win streak, more than 1 game, that's for sure. But yeah, so we're trying to put the trifecta here together of 3 top 5% nights in a row. And it's fun that we get the KBO aspect of it tonight. So that's super. Our man Andrew Hansen was trying to take the night off, but here he is texting us and trying to chirp his thoughts. He's so afraid we're gonna not play his Deuce on Bear guys. He's
Yep.
like, stressing over it. But I faded a lot of Deuce on guys because I knew he wouldn't holler at me. So this is great.
Oh yeah, yep. And then I promised Andrew that I would give you some plays that are at the bottom of the lineup for you as well, and then you can fade Doosan, and then I'm also playing the pitcher against Doosan as well, just to rile up Andrew a little bit.
Oh, he's gonna have an absolute heart attack if he
Yeah.
listens in,
Oh
no
yeah.
doubt. But it's Friday, by the way, June 5th, and we're just so fired up here at DFS Coach Talk. Just great things happening. Our team is just so solid. Everybody does such a great job, and we have 2 sponsors we want to thank that are bringing this broadcast to you. First of all, TVG is where the world goes to watch and wager on horse racing. You got to get in there with TVG. It's unbelievable. They are offering an exclusive deal. I don't know if you've done it yet, Shane, but it's a $300 risk-free bet. So you can actually go in there, join TVG, bet 300 bucks on a horse. If he doesn't even, run or falls over, you get your 300 bucks back. I think that if he wins or whatever you bet him, can you imagine the nice bankroll you've got there? So that's a really cool offer, and it's only to our members at DFS Coach Talk. So if you want to take advantage of that, tomorrow's some unbelievable racing at Santa Anita. The big prep race for the Derby and the Triple Crown is tomorrow at Santa Anita. They have, I believe, 8 stakes races out of their 10 races. So go to tvg.com and then actually, I'm sorry, go to dfscoachtalk.com and click on the TVG tag because that's the only way you can get that $300 free, or I should say, guaranteed wager. So that's one for sure. Also, our partners at BetUS, we've got some great things coming from them next week that are going to be a lot of fun. Some good offers for our folks. But, if you want to jump on some wagers this weekend, BetUS is definitely the industry leader and a place to go. So we thank both of them. We're excited about having them aboard. And, again, with us at DFS Coach Talk, we bring you 7-day-a-week podcasts. And right now, we're really trying to touch all our bases here. And if you haven't seen our updated podcast schedule, it is posted on our website for the next week. But for the next 6 weeks, the way we're basically going to do our podcasts are I get to have my Coach's Day every Monday for an NBA podcast. So we'll start going deeper and deeper now that we know that the NBA is going to be back on July 31st. Hopefully you caught yesterday's show that Andrew and I did explaining how that all is going to work. Now we're going to start breaking down the teams and taking a look at some of the DFS plays. And there's a lot of edges, Shane. I don't know, just from, reading and researching guys that are going to, looks like are going to show up in shape better than when they left. Guys that lost a bunch of weight like Harden and the Joker, who I used to make fun of, the guy, and now he's making me look like an idiot. But guys like that, and then I think there's some guys just from hearing different things, like DeAndre Ayton, it really hasn't done much of anything. So all of that is going to play into those matchups. Can't wait to get into that on Mondays. Then we're doing 3-day-a-week podcast for KBO because we cover every KBO slate. They play 6 days a week. We're in there not only with 3 podcasts per week, but we're providing FanDuel lineups to our members in Discord and DraftKings player pool. And that's for every card. And then the big advantage that we have over anybody else in the industry is we are live before lock, 30 minutes before all locks. Like tonight, it's a 1 a.m. Eastern. We're in there at 12:30 for the first one, and then 4 a.m. for the second one. So we're in there at 3:30. So the old coach hasn't been getting much sleep, Shane, but you know what? It's worth it. It's building our bankroll, and we're doing great. We want to have a big fat bankroll for when all the major sports come back. So we're super excited about that. And we'll be in there tonight too, right before lock for both of them. Then we're also doing a Major League Baseball podcast per week as well, going over a team each podcast just to dig down, because we're hoping that the owners and players can get their heads out of their and come to some agreement here and bring baseball back. I really do think they'll come back in July. Don't you think? With baseball?
No, I don't. I don't have faith in baseball because the players and the Players Association just seem to be out of touch and kind of arrogant. And I think that it's just a huge contract dispute. And when you have that, that's going to delay things so much that I don't know if they're going to come to an agreement or not. So I think they're running up against a deadline, but maybe they could start in August, but it's like, is that too late? I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just, I think they're too far apart in the negotiations right now, and they don't seem to be willing to be flexible. So I'm a little concerned about it starting, anytime in July. It might be maybe in August. I could see it by the time they work things out, because I think they need a spring training. And this, it's almost like a summer training program. So I'm a little concerned about MLB, but at least we do have a date for NBA, and of course NFL is just basically they're just canceling all the spring training and the OTAs and the rookie mini camps, and you're just going to go right into regular training camp basically with the NFL. Right. So that, but I'm not really too optimistic on MLB right now, but that could change. Everything is day to day right now.
I've lived through a lot of player stoppages in Major League Baseball, and it's really hurt the sport. I mean, each time it's happened, they lose a chunk of their fans. They were America's favorite sport. Now they can't even touch football or the NBA. NBA has passed them by too. I think if they blow this, knowing the way our country needs to heal right now. Andrew and I talked about this a little bit the other day. Baseball played a big role when we were coming back from the 9/11 situation, and just really did a lot of healing for the country, brought us back together, motivated everybody. But if they're so greedy, the old billionaires versus millionaires scenario here, that they're going to not come back knowing how much the country needs the distraction and needs the game back. That would be just ultimate selfish deal. And I think that they'll lose another huge chunk of fans. So I hope it doesn't happen, man. I really do.
Yeah, I agree with you on all that, but that's my concern, is that they're just too stubborn, and they're kind of set in their ways. And you would think that they are the number one sport, the way they're acting, like they have that much leverage.
Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. So it doesn't look good, but things could turn around and eventually, be able to get the season going. But as of right now, don't like the way the negotiations are going.
It absolutely stinks. The only other podcast day I didn't mention was Wednesdays. Andrew and I are going to be doing a PGA show. So we're very excited about that. We're going to ride and build the bankroll with KBO and the PGA until we get basketball back July 31st, and then football. And again, we'll see what happens with baseball. So that's really the scene as far as that goes. But we need to jump into KBO because we're doing this pretty late in the evening. We're going to post it and just give enough time for everybody to check it out before they jump in Discord with us. So it's somewhat of a live before lock, if you will. But so we need to get cracking on this KBO stuff. So I'm going to set the whole situation here a little bit. Talk about the fact that we don't have any weather issues. We're all good there. So no worries on the weather. That is a good thing. We have 2 early games and 3 later games. This is the 1 day per week that they do that. And let me give you these quick matchups with the teams and pitchers real quick. We have the key. Oh, by the way, before we start, I got to thank you for clearing up the big controversy with Andrew and I is, I assumed that CHOI was Choi. I mean, we've had a lot of different Choi athletes in golf and in Major League Baseball. But after you dug in and found out the true Korean way to pronounce Choi, CHOI, is Ch, just like Andrew was doing, which sounds really stupid, but it's okay, man. We're rolling with Ch because that's the way it's supposed to be pronounced in Korea.
Yeah, it's almost like if your last name is CHOI and you're playing a U.S. sport, and you're playing in the United States, then it's okay. We can call them Choi. But since they're actually playing in Korea, you try to use the correct pronunciation, which is Ch. And there's some other ones like Lee is like E or something like that. I mean, it doesn't even sound like there's not even like an L in it if you pronounce it in Korean. So there's a lot of them like that, and I'm probably going to butcher a lot of these names, but I think as long as we know which player we're talking about, we're okay. We try to get the right pronunciation. But yeah, that is crazy.
We've been working with this long enough now. The last 3 weeks, or I don't know how long they've been playing, 4 weeks, whatever it is. I think we've got the names pretty darn good. It's amazing because we were talking about the fact that early on it was a struggle trying to get them all down. Now it's like we're just spitting them out. Sung Bum Na is just like boom. It's like saying John Smith anymore.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So anyway, okay, the 2 early games: Kia Tigers at the Doosan Bears. It's Gagnon 2-3 with a 3.95 against Flexen, 2-0 with a 2.61. So that's a good game. The other early game, the Chalk NC Dinos with Koo Chang Mo at 4-0 with an 0.51. That's pretty salty right there. He'll be 100% owned almost, I think. And the Hanwha Eagles, Bell 0-0 with a 5.14. So also, again, warning, the Dinos are going to be massively stacked and high owned. And the NC Dinos, probably this guy for the Dinos will be the highest owned pitcher that we've seen on a slate in KBO this season. So just to give that warning, because we talked about a little before we came on air, is we're going to try to give you a few pivots from some of those Dinos players to give you a little bit of a contrarian feel or look to it, but not completely abandon. As we've talked about before, sometimes you have to eat some of that chalk. So, all right, the 3 later games, which are 4 a.m. Eastern, KT Wiz with Beijiang Xiang at 2.67 ERA with 2-1 record against the Low T Giants and Dan Straley, 1-2 with a 2.70. The LG Twins and Mr. Wilson, 2-2 with a 4.60 against the Kiwoom Heroes and Lee Seung Ho, 0-2 with a big fat 7.83. And then last game of the night is the Samsung Lions with Cha Chae Hyung at 3-1 with a 3.21, and the SK Wyverns, my favorite nickname of the league, the Wyverns, with Park Jong-hoon, 2-0 with a 3.54. So that's how it sets. And now we'll do a quick check in, of course. We're live here at betus.com, and give you the lines real quick, and then we're going to let you start breaking these down. So the first game, we've got the Doosan Bears are minus 145 favorite against Kia, 9 over under. We've got monster NC Dinos, 330 favorite. They're even at 225 on the run line, minus 1.5, and it's only 8.5 on the over under. The biggest line of the night is the LG Twins and the Kiwoom Heroes as far as over under. It's 11, and the Twins are a 155 favorite. So definitely hitter alert there a little bit with a line. The other two late games, the KT Wiz versus Low T Giants. Lodi's a 135 favorite with a 9.5 over under. And the final game, we've got Samsung just a slight 120 favorite on the road against SK with the over under of 9. So we thank you to BetUS for those live odds. Definitely get on there and get some of those played. I don't know how you even played the Dinos. Minus 225 on the run line is a hard pill to swallow. But all right, man. So we're in there. Now this is where the big money is made. We are going to go game by game, and Sugar Shane in the honor of Andrew Language Olympic Hansen is going to break these games down and tell you the hot plays for every team. Again, we'll go over, build some player pools, recommendations, fades, all that kind of stuff, hot plays, stacks. But the main thing is jump on at DFS Coach Talk or DFSCoachTalk.com. Then, become a member. If you become a 1-week member, Shane, for $25, the clock, it's such a good offer. I'm choked up. The clock doesn't start until pro sports begins. So as of right now, July 31st. So you get to ride all this PGA and KBO for free until then. Again, I think we're the only guys doing that out there. So very excited. You definitely want to jump in there. Okay. I can see the smoke coming off your head here. You got so many brain waves cooking. So we've got Kia at Doosan, man. Take it away. Oh, and I got it shut off my phone.
So
hit it.
So Kia and Doosan, they're playing at Doosan, which is a pitcher's park. You think of Doosan as a high-scoring team, but their park is definitely more suited for pitchers. So definitely more suited for pitchers rather than hitters, even though they have a lot of stars in this lineup here. So to start with the pitchers, I do like Chris Flexen for the Doosan Bears. He's 2-0, 2.61 ERA. Flexen is a good play as well. I was actually going to talk about Gagnon.
I was going to say, is Andrew sending you threatening texts?
Well, here's the thing. Both of these pitchers are good. This slate in general is loaded with good pitchers. The problem is you have Koo at the top with going against Hanwha is just so chalky and he's just been out of this world, shut down this year. And
Dino is from the Flintstones. Don't disgrace my dinos.
Dinos, yeah, sorry.
I'm a Dinos fan, man.
Yeah.
I'm a Dinos fan.
Yep, see, I already pronounced something wrong. There you go. Dinos.
No, it's okay, but I just couldn't let you get away with it because that's my favorite team in the
exactly.
Well, let me ask you this, but not to interrupt you, but Koo is just automatic. I mean, you got to eat the chalk, right? I mean, we're all playing Koo. Correct?
You are playing him. So the as in DraftKings, it's a matter of what is the second pitcher because there's not like a clear second pitcher.
Right.
So I think that Chris Flexen for Doosan is definitely good. He's a good play. It's a tough matchup for both of these pitchers in this game. But if you look at their price though on DraftKings, Chris Flexen is 8,600, where Drew Goggin for Kia is only 6,800. So I feel like they're pretty similar plays here. Obviously, no one likes to play someone against Doosan,
Doosan. It's tough, but I'm with you, man. I think Gagnon's a good play. I like him at that price. I really do. And I hope Andrew is not paying attention because, he's going to have a heart attack about this. But, if you want, I mean, to me, I'm with you. Gagnon's a great second pitcher for Koo on DraftKings. I think you got to go with Koo on FanDuel where you only get one pitcher. But, I think Flexen will probably be the second highest owned pitcher. And I get it if you want to play him, but it's going to sacrifice a lot of your bats if you go Koo and Flexen. So I'm with you, man. I have no problem rolling up Gagnon as my second guy and, hope you get good 7 innings out of him.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with Gagnon, this year is a 33% strikeout rate, so he has a lot of upside, even though he's going against Duzen. So even if he gives up some runs and some hits, which he probably will, he should be able to offset that with a good strikeout rate there.
Yep.
And if he can get the win as well, because it's really, it's a pretty close matchup here in terms of the over under. It's only a 9 over under. So Duzen is favored, but that really could go either way in this one. So I think both of these pitchers are viable. There's a ton of good pitchers in this slate. It is a pitcher's park, so that's why I just think that Gagnon is underpriced, even though he's going against Duzen on DraftKings specifically.
I'm with you. As far as this game goes in my preparation, I'm interested to hear your take. I tried to fade as many players as I could in this game because I do respect both pitchers. It is a pitcher's park. And, I could see this being a 3-2, 3-1 kind of game with Gagnon getting a decent amount of strikeouts and, Flexen pitching decent as well. So did you use, obviously, this isn't a stack game, but did you one-off anybody in this game from either side?
If you're building multiple GPP lineups, this is a game that I would like to attack a couple of those power bats. Look at that, just because with the Dinos, is that right? With the Dinos. Okay. Yes. With the Dinos being so chalky on this slate, and also we're going to talk about. I think it was the other team that was really stacked, going to be chalky is LG, the LG Twins. If you want to differentiate, you're going to have to differentiate somewhere with at least a one-off. So I would be comfortable playing Preston Tucker, even though he is very expensive on DraftKings and FanDuel. He does have the platoon advantage, and I think he could get Flexen for a long shot, a home run and maybe a double. So Tucker, being that he is one of the best players in this league, and that people are not going to be willing to pay up for him because they're going to want to pay up for all these other guys we're going to talk about. I think that he's worth to try to differentiate yourself. You got to do it somewhere. And there's some pretty good value with those other chalky lineups that have great matchups that are pretty hot, that are fairly affordable right now. So I have no issue with Tucker or H. Choi as the designated hitter if he bats cleanup. If his price is right. I apologize, I don't have his price right in front of me. But those are the guys that I would probably focus on Kia. And then for Duzen, and again, Fernandez is going to be the same thing. He's been probably the MVP of this league, right up there with Preston. And you really, he's good. If there's a time you're going to get him at lower ownership, like in the low teens, if not single digits, tonight's going to be the night. And he's certainly capable of really hitting any pitcher here. So even against Gagnon, I think he's still good. So I think you still have to look at Fernandez, and maybe as a lower owned play, Jae Hoan Kim, who I always give you guys a little bit of flack about him playing him because he was on a little bit of a slump there at the plate. He didn't look good at the plate.
I saw you taking some shots in Discord at me.
I did. Yep. I intentionally tried to razz you a little bit there.
Stoking it. Yeah.
But again, because he'd been on a slump and he broke out of that slump a little bit, but then he hasn't had any huge games the last few nights here. He's another guy that can definitely go yard, and he's got a ton of power. And that's the type of guy that he's expensive, but no one's going to play him tonight. So you're going to get him at lower ownership. So you're going to have to differentiate and get a little bit of risky, at least at 1 or 2 plays in your lineup, because it's going to be so chalky. That's my opinion here. You're going to have to go off the board a little bit if you want to differentiate yourself and gain an edge.
I'm with you. The thing that scares me about Gagnon is Doosan has 6 lefties batting 1 through 6, and that definitely is a concern. So it is a huge risk. I don't think Agnon's going to get nearly as much ownership against it. I mean, everybody's afraid of Doosan. So definitely got to think about that.
Yep.
Since I'm going to play Gagnon a little bit, at least in some of my GPP lineups, I have a rule: never play a hitter, even a one-off, against a pitcher. It's like a mental thing for me. I just refuse to go with any negative juju or mojo or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to fade Doosan, and I'm probably going to be very alone in doing that because I think a lot of those guys are going to get ownership. As far as Kia goes, I'm with you. I think this may be the best time to take Tucker just because this will probably be one of his lowest ownerships of the year for sure. So
Yeah.
if you want to sneak in there and get Tucker, even though he's so pricey, what a differentiator if he does hit a couple of bombs or something. So he's certainly a guy to target if you want to.
And let me just mention, Coach, that I play a little bit more GPPs, you play a little bit more cash, so you're going to be a little more comfortable kind of eating the chalk on this. But I will tell you that this slate is so chalky and so predictable in terms of who people are targeting that you almost have to have a little bit of a GPP mindset when you build your cash lineups for tonight's slate. You know what I mean? Just because it's a little bit hard to differentiate yourself. The scores are probably going to be really high. So again, I think even in cash games, you got to still try to find a little bit lower owned player here.
I totally understand what you're saying, but you have to be super careful. If you're a cash player, the majority of your play is cash wise like mine is. If you try to get too cute and not eat some of the chalk, you can't spot somebody a 35-point hitter or a 30-point pitcher and try to catch up. So I agree with you. There's a fine line. You don't want to have, the same lineup or close to the exact same lineup as everybody else in your cash game. For example, I'm playing in the $100 entry that's 30 players. So I'm only going against 29 guys, but they're good players and they're going to have the majority of these guys that are the key people. So, if you fade the coup or whatever and try to get real cute, it doesn't usually work. It's that one or two differentiators that you just utilize enough to make yourself a little contrarian, but nothing like in GPP. And what for you guys that are building GPP stacks, that's where you got to take some shots. You really do. I mean, you'll see very often if you study these, GPP guys that stack 150 lineups and all of that stuff, it never fails that, you a couple of times a week, the lineup that takes it down is like, I'll usually talk about it in Major League Baseball, but in KBO, it would be like a 5-man Hanwha stack that no one else is using, and they happen to score 10 or 12 runs that night, and that takes it down because, you're just so different than everybody else. It's risky. You can do that in GPPs when you're playing multiple lineups because a lot of times a 5-man Hanwha stack is going to get you a Hanwha hamburger, basically nothing. So, that's my point I wanted to make there.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. You don't want to get too cute. And I guess what I meant by a GPP mentality is on that one or two plays, you might play a player that you're normally not comfortable with because you can easily build your full lineup with those chalky plays, with those lineups that in the pitchers you're trying to target. You can build your whole lineup because there's low price guys, there's high price guys there. So I just think my point is you want to have that little more of a contrarian plays with just one or two of those plays. Otherwise, how are you going to gain an edge? So like in that tournament that you're playing, you have 30 guys in there. If you play a guy like Tucker, your lineup construction is going to be so much different than the rest of the field. That if Tucker does go yard and just have a monster game, he's probably going to be only like 10% owned or less in that lineup. So you're going to gain a huge edge on that field.
Big advantage, no doubt. But again, it's people that think you can just throw a lineup in there and put it in cash in GPP. You're making a mistake because it's a totally different strategy. I mean, I have a single entry that I'm putting in there, and I've got to make sure that I'm getting the most value, the most chalk where I've got to eat it and everything else, as opposed to GPPs where you can take some flyers. So anyway, that's a discussion for another day. And we have a bunch of evergreen podcasts, by the way, with lineup build strategy and all of that, where we talk a lot about GPP versus cash and how, the mentality, because all the sports are different a little bit, but still the mentality and strategy is somewhat the same. So check those out. You can go to DFS Coach Talk on YouTube. We have all of those cataloged in there, and it'll say strategy, GPP, cash. Good stuff to listen to. Everybody's going to be chomping at the bit to play DFS now that we have all these announcements coming. So this, take advantage of this next 6 or 7 weeks to listen to some of the pods, get yourself prepared and ready to roll. All right, game 2, NC Dinos, Chalk City team against the Hanwha Eagles. Obviously, monster spread here. Bunch of guys, that are projected with big numbers for hitting, and the massively popular coup. And I can't imagine anybody rostering Chad Bell today, but if you do, you've got a pair bigger than mine. That's for sure, buddy.
Yeah. I don't think the GPP tournaments are big enough where you need to gain an edge that.
Now I say that Bell probably stings like a 3-hit 10 strikeout.
Yeah.
So what do you got here? Is Hanwha just a complete fade?
I can't see anything on Hanwha where I'm going to mess with that. But when you get into obviously the Dinos, it is Dinos.
Think about dinosaur.
Yeah, Dinos. Okay.
All those years when you were young watching the Flintstones, it's warped your brain, man.
It must be. Yeah, exactly. So the Dinos.
All right.
Okay, we got the Dinos right. That's good. So we have Aaron Altier is really cheap on FanDuel. He does bat a little bit lower in the order, but I don't think it's going to matter. He has the platoon advantage here. He's $11 on FanDuel. A little bit more expensive on DraftKings at $4,700. So I think he's a great play. Of course, Sumbum Na has been absolute just on fire lately. It's kind of hard to fade him. It's a lefty on lefty, but Sumbum Na, it doesn't seem to matter. He's been smashing even against lefties this year. So Sumbum Na, $5,400 on DraftKings, $16 on FanDuel. He's almost a lock and load, lead pipe lock tonight. Again, you have to differentiate somewhere else. That's why I mentioned that, because guys like Sumbum Na, it's going to be hard to fade them. And then you have Suk Min Park, their third baseman. He's great because he's only $10 on FanDuel. So he's a great value on FanDuel.
Yeah.
There in $4,700 on DraftKings. And let's see, just wanted to check and see where he's batting 5th there.
Right.
So and then you also have Jin Sung Kang, who's down there. What is he? 6? And he's really good. Also $10. Yeah, he's got that good pop, and he's batting really good right now. He's only $10 on FanDuel and $3,700 on DraftKings, so he's a little more affordable on DraftKings. And then you can also look at Jin Hyuk No. He's an affordable guy down there as well, even though he's a left-hander. So I do like him as well. And then, of course, the guy that you really like, the catcher, Yu Yang, if I pronounce that right. So those are kind of the main targets there on this lineup. Were you kind of look at the same guys, or any other comments on these guys?
Well, they've raised Yang's price through the roof on DraftKings. I mean, he's one of the more expensive players in the whole league now. So that has soured me because, when you're talking about the fact that he's almost as much as Gagnon is as a pitcher, it's a little hard pill to swallow. I do like Sumbum Na. I think, he's the guy that's MLB bound with Boros as the agent, and he just keeps hitting against everybody. He's got MVP type potential as far as the Korean side of things anyway. But, I think there's a lot of guys you could play here. I'm not going to go up with Yang on that expense, but I do like you pointing out Park and Kang. I think they're very affordable for the 5-6 hitters against, and they're both righties. They're going to make a lot of my lineups along with Na. I don't usually go below 5th. I will go to 6 usually in matchups like this. Altier, I used for the first like 3 straight weeks because they never moved his price on FanDuel from $9. Now he went from 10 to 11, and he's way too expensive on DraftKings for a number 8 hitter. So I probably will not go there just because of where he's batting. But I think you'll see 3 dinos in my lineup along with the pitcher. Again, I think a lot of guys will stack 5 people from the dinos and the pitcher. So trying to be a little bit different and not stacking the exact guys that everybody else is. But that's what I'm looking at. And then complete fade of Hanwha. So I'm ready for game 3 if you are, man.
Yeah. Yep.
Samsung Lions at the SK Wyverns.
Yep.
This game is interesting for sure. There's a 10-mile-an-hour wind left to right. I've noticed at that ballpark, though, it seems like there's a little lift for left-handed pop, just something to keep an eye on at the SK Park, especially when there's wind. I think it goes out to right a little bit more than it does to left. I don't have the statistical proof right now, but I'll look that up. But watching it, I'm pretty sure that's the case. So,
and that park is SK is the best park factor hitters park on this slate. So this is kind of a sneaky game where you can get that value in since you're going for these high price guys. And I think that the pitcher for the Wyverns, Jong Hoon Park, some people might play him tonight. He's pitched really well this year, but I think he's due for a little bit of regression. So he's pitched way above what he did in 2019. So I feel like he's due for a little bit regression. It's a hitter's park, and Samsung's actually favored, which is kind of rare. So I do like a few of the Samsung bats if you want to get some guys that are super cheap, good value type plays here. So let's take a look at a few of these Samsung plays that I mentioned. So I do like Tyler Saladino. Is that you pronounce?
Saladino, yeah.
Yeah, Saladino. He's batting third, and he definitely has that power upside. And he is only $8 on FanDuel. So he's super cheap there.
And I don't see how you pass him up for $8. I mean, the guy's got 14 hits in the last 5 games. We talked about him a lot in the last show. They moved him down to 5th, 6th, and then 8th, and then he responded with 14 hits in 5 or 6 games here, and they got him back at 3rd. So from a price standpoint, I don't see how you pass on him. I'm with him. He's my favorite guy from Samsung. I also like Chan Do Park, the lefty, batting second. And, I think you can look at Kim in the cleanup, and you can look at Hak Ju Lee. I agree with you. I don't think the SK Wyverns guy that's 2-0 for possibly the worst team in the league, it's just screams of regression. I mean, he's gotten a little lucky, I think, to this point. So I'm with you there. I think that, I may have more Samsung guys in my lineup than I have this season. Maybe 2 or 3 for sure.
Yeah. So there's another guy who is the catcher, Min Ho Kang, and he goes against your rule because he's batting probably 8th. But he's interesting because he basically just, strikes out or doesn't get a hit or hits a home run. Like there's no in between for him. So at $7 on FanDuel, if you need a pump play at low price, probably more of a GPP play here, that allows you to load up on probably 3 of the high price guys by playing this guy at $7, and it also helps you afford the NC starting pitcher there. So that's a guy that you can look at as a GPP flyer, Min Ho Kang at $7 on FanDuel. It definitely makes you nervous, but he does hit a lot of home runs. He just doesn't. He's not very consistent for his batting average.
I'm with you. What about on the SK side? I mean, there's certainly a couple plays there. You got the lefty, and they have 2, 4, 6, 8 straight righties. How's that?
Exactly. No, I mean, I like Jamie Romack batting cleanup, platoon advantage in a hitter's park. So He's usually pretty reasonably priced. So definitely like Jamie Romack. He's not probably one of my top targets, but he could be one of those one-off guys if you want to differentiate yourself there.
Yeah, for me, I'm considering the 2, 3, 4 guys, Jiang and Cha and Jamie Rowe. Those three guys, I think, are all legitimate enough to you could grab one or two of them, either a one-off or a little mini two-man stack, because the Samsung pitcher's okay, but again, hitters park. I think that SK will put some runs up on the board. You just have to select the right guy. That's really what it comes down to. So, not ecstatic about that game, but enough that I'm definitely going to have a presence from that game in my lineup. I think it's going to go overlooked. A lot of people, Samsung and SK are not big roster teams. So I think, some great differentiation and some great potential there as well. So I'm hoping that works out. All right. Game 4, we have KTW at the Lotte Giants. What do you think, man?
Yeah, so I really like the pitchers here. I'm not necessarily looking at. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of good pitchers on this slate here. I mean, Dan Straley's had a few decent games. He's kind of a high strikeout guy, but he's also gave up quite a few runs as well this year. This is also a hitter's park here, so I do like some of the batters here. Probably the main guy. I mentioned this to you earlier. I like Mel Rojas Jr. I feel like people are not going to be paying up for him as much tonight because there's all these other guys that they want to pay up for. So I feel like he's a good one-off to pay up for to differentiate your lineup. And he's definitely a guy that can hit some home runs. He hits for power, and I think he can get to Straley and get to that bullpen as well. So that's probably my main play from the KT Wiz. But I think the KT Wiz are kind of a sneaky team tonight as well. That you might be able to get a little bit lower ownership there. I have a few other of the KT guys here. You could go, Kyung So Park,
Yeah.
and I believe he's batting. Is he batting
Fifth.
second?
Fifth.
Oh, he's batting fifth. Yeah, yep. So I like Park as well. I think he's pretty reasonable. And then you have Jung Ho Jo and Jung Dae Bae also in the mix. They're not necessarily power guys, but on DraftKings, those are guys that can get multiple hits, and you can stack those guys.
They get on base a lot.
Yep.
2, 3 hitters that definitely do get on base. Yep.
Yep. So I think the KT Wiz could be sneaky. They've been running pretty hot lately. They're in a pretty good park here, and I think they could definitely still do well, even though they're going against Straley, and I think they can get to the bullpen as well. Pretty early in that game.
Well, this is one we're going to differ on a little bit. I get your points. I think they're good. Straley is the guy that I'm trying to decide between if I want to just completely pay down for Gagnon from Kia. The more I get closer to my cash lineup, the more I'm getting more afraid to play Gagnon. So I may go to Straley. We followed Straley very closely. He had, when he first went over there, he was in quarantine. There was just a lot of stuff that he went through early on, but he's been getting into a groove. He's gotten unlucky on some stuff as well. I like Straley. I think he'll pitch well tonight. And he very well may be my second pitcher. I know KTW's been hitting the ball, but they're inconsistent. A lot of it just has to do with the team they're playing a lot of times. I think that Lotte's a better team. And I just think that Straley may be a solid play today. Now, I do like a few guys from the Lotte side. I think that I like Siop Son, their leadoff hitter, the lefty. He gets on base. He can steal a base. He can do a lot of things. And, the main part of their order, the 3-4s with Chi Hung on is pretty cheap for a 3-hitter. And I'm a little partial to Daeho Lee because he hit a 3-run homer for me last night in our big contest. So I like him a little bit. And Hio, the fifth hitter from them, lefty versus righty, is another guy that you can get. Now sometimes he's listed as Hio, Heo. Sometimes one of the sites has him as Her, Hur. So be aware of that when you're looking those guys up. But I think, for me, maybe a one-off with low T with one of those guys and a fade on KTW for me. So we're a little bit different ballparks there, but it's a hard game to completely dismiss because they're 9.5 over under, so there's going to more than likely be some runs. So that's sort of where I stand there. But here's the stackable game, the LG Kiwoom game, the 11 over under. Tyler Wilson against Young Ho Lee. A lot of opportunity to stack here. So where are you going in this one, Sugar Shane?
Yeah, so from LG, I really like LG. I mean, they have the same implied title as the Dinos, so 5.5, implied total there. So I think that they have a great matchup here against the Kiwoom pitcher. Seung Ho Lee from Kiwoom, he has a FIP is 6.37 and his ERA this year 7.83. Not very good. A pretty low strikeout rate, only 15% there. So I really like that matchup there. So definitely LG's in the mix for stacks here. They should be a little bit lower owned than the Dinos here. So I like In Sung Che. So I really like Che at $11. He's only $11 on FanDuel. And let me check and see where he's at. Do you have his price on DraftKings? I apologize.
I don't have it in front of me. Yeah, when you're looking that up, I'll mention the fact that I wanted to play Ramos last night, but Andrew wouldn't go for it.
I saw that. Yep.
Double donged.
So, he's the guy.
Tell Andrew that I mentioned it on air, but even though we crushed it last night, if we would have had the double dong Ramos in there, we would. It'd have gotten really crazy.
The thing.
So anyway, how's that for throwing your teammate under the bus?
Exactly, yeah. Well, here's the thing about Ramos on DraftKings. He's criminally underpriced. He has been. Yes, his price is going to slowly have to start coming up, but they haven't adjusted the price accordingly.
He was $4,000 last night. And
exactly.
Paying 56 and 59 for these first basemen. The kid's a 25-year-old power hitter, possibly the best power hitter in the entire league, just on pure power. I mean, tape measure shots. So, you got to consider him until they adjust his price. Now, he's expensive on FanDuel, but he's one of those DraftKings bargains. So just wanted to mention, just so Andrew, his ears are going to be burning for sure. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm just going to look up. Che is 3,200 on LG.
Don't get many three hitters at 3,200.
And he did, he did leave Friday's game with a potential knee injury. So that's a guy that we're going to have to keep an eye on tonight when getting closer to lock here, just because that's a little concerning there that he left. So I don't know if he's going to be in yet or not. But I do like Che. And then they also have their catcher, Kang Nam Yu, who had a couple nights ago, had a big game. He's only $8 on FanDuel. And on DraftKings, I like him as the catcher play. Since you have to play him there, I like him at $3,300 on DraftKings.
Another number 8 hitter.
So, so which for me, I have
from now on all the shows, I'm going to refer to the 8 hole as the Sugar Shane batting spot, number 8.
If you go back and see, that's why you don't want to have a hard and fast rule like that. If you go back and look at some of these games, there's been teams that blew up at the bottom of the order here. So the main objective is to score a lot of fantasy points. It doesn't really matter where they hit. I understand the philosophy there. So especially when you can get them at such a good price there at $8 on FanDuel, he's really good. So I guess this brings
me a hard time, man.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of people that do the wraparound stacks, 8, 9, 1, 2, and stuff like that, and I get it. Yep. But to me, you set some guidelines in your head, your own rules, and then statistically, for me, if I stay with that pattern in the long run, it pays off. But you're right. I mean, there's no there's no reason you have to eliminate those guys. But if for anybody out there that's going to have 4 or 5 guys batting eighth in their lineup, please look me up and let's go a little head-to-head action.
Yeah. No, I think 1 or 2 guys that are value plays that can still have pretty high upside, I think is the way to go. So let me ask this question.
You're going to hate me after this one, man. You're not going to want to do any more podcasts with me.
Okay, so here's a FanDuel debate. I was kind of building the lineup, and I can choose between Tyler Saladino at $8 or this King Nam Yu from LG. I think the King Nam Yu probably has a better matchup, but Saladino is batting third, right? So you got a guy third versus 8, both a great $8 play. But if I can only play one of those guys, who are you going to play then?
14 hits in 5 games for Saladino. Case closed. Yeah. Plus, he could play shortstop third, whatever, which is a tough position to fill. I very, very seldom use a catcher in FanDuel because you don't have to. So just a thought. I mean, unless, I've been playing Yang all year, from the Dinos, but at that price now, it's a little silly. So, but on DraftKings where you have to get a catcher and, you're not going to bite the bullet and spend the big money for Yang, it's either usually you pay up for Yang from the Dinos or you pay up from Park from Kiwoom, or it doesn't really matter. You're just going to punt catcher, and that's where, the guys like you is a good play and stuff like that. So that's sort of a determination you have to make on DraftKings. And then, like I say, I probably have only used a catcher on FanDuel maybe twice all year so far. So
yeah, he just has a really good matchup, so that's what makes him enticing there between at $8 and a great matchup there. So, but yeah, I definitely.
I'm not raining on your parade. I can see it. I can see my entire Discord DM blowing up when you goes deep tonight. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. How about on the Kiwoom side?
Kiwoom, I mean, this is a team that we play a lot of. But it wasn't a team I was really targeting tonight. I didn't like the matchup quite as much here. So yeah, it wasn't Tyler They're going against Tyler Wilson. I think he's a pretty decent pitcher there.
I don't like Tyler. I think he is overrated. I mean, his ERA is drifting towards 5. I don't think his stuff is good. I really don't. I mean, his ball just doesn't move that much. I've been very disappointed in, what he's done. I hope he does still get some ownership, but that's a guy, I don't mind doing a little mini stack against on the Kiwoom side. And I know we play Kiwoom a lot, but they're good to us, man. Jung Ho Lee, as you know, is my favorite player in the league. He's, lefty against right. He's batting third. I mean, he's almost a plug and play for me almost on a lot of given nights. Byung-Ho Park, tons of pop. The catcher D Park is probably where I'm going to go. I have no problem playing that 3, 4, 5. And I know we stack those guys a lot, but, they hit a lot. And, I'm going to look at a mini stack from Kiwoom to finish out my mini stack with the Dinos. And then, a couple SK Samsung, a one-off there, and then a KTW low T probably one-off. I'm going to probably go Doosan on the pitcher and not really mess with any hitters in that game, but that's just to give you an overlook of sort of how I see my build coming together. So it'll be a little chalkier than normal tonight, but, when we put these prices together, like you have been saying all along, finding that one-off here and there that can make a difference is what we're going to do. And maybe Tucker's that guy at probably his lowest ownership of the year that might be the wild card.
Yeah, for me, it's Mel Rojas Jr. He's 6,500 on DK, which tells me, and I know that you didn't really like the KT Wiz, so I can get him super low owned though. So if I have enough value where I can fit him in, I like him, and he's $16 on FanDuel. So he's the guy that I like as that one-off that a lot of people aren't going to be on because of the reasons, like you said, that you're not really sure about the matchup, not really sold on the KT Wiz, but I'm hoping he can ride that hot streak. in there and be that one-off play to stack in with these LG guys that I like and the dinos that I like. I think from Kiwoom that Hai Seong Kim, I like him as well. Probably more on FanDuel at $14. He's been very expensive on DraftKings though. Usually around 6,000. So
well, he's shortstop eligible, but yeah, I'm with you. I like him too. He's just expensive as all get out.
Yeah,
sure. And I think your point on, I mean, Rojas is top 5 player in the league hitting wise right now. So I don't blame you for that play at all. It just, when guys start getting to the mid 6s in pricing, it's a lot to bite off, I mean, guys like Fernandez, Tucker, Rojas, I mean, they've earned that pricing, but it's definitely, unless you're going to really pay down at one of the pitching spots, it's hard to roster one of those guys and still get the big other bats that you want. So yeah, it's getting tougher. They've done some good adjusting on prices. And then there's some things they've completely dropped the ball on, some 3 hitters that are $3,000 and some, 2 hitters that are $2,000 that they're just not adjusting.
Exactly. If you're willing to play Gagnon for Kia against Duzen on DraftKings, like I said, I think even though he's got a tough matchup, he's 6,800. That allowed me in that lineup construction and I feel like there was some really good value with Jay No and Jay King from NCD. They were in like the mid $3,000 range, and those guys I think are going to be awesome tonight. So that allowed me to get Sumbum Na, Rojas, and Ramos, who's criminally underpriced at 4,200, all in the same lineup. So it just comes down to, can Gagnon be able to stop Duzen's power hitting attack? If he can, though, that lineup's going to, it's going to have a good advantage, especially if Rojas goes off and has a monster game like I think he's going to, and he's going to be lower ownership. So that's kind of the philosophy that I have right now on DraftKings. And I'm okay with paying him $16. So instead of going Roberto Ramos at $17 on FanDuel, pay down $1 and get much lower ownership and hopefully similar or better production from Rojas Jr. So that's just a philosophy that I'm looking at as that one-off guy. So I just wanted to mention that as I think is a good play.
I like it, man. And, I'm chickening out a little bit on Gagnon on the cash lineup, but I will have the Koo Gagnon matchup in my GPP for sure.
You've been hanging out with Andrew too much. I'm just kidding. He said, no, that's okay.
Yeah. No, it's a great, I think it could be a great play. I really do. I just got to, I still haven't made my final decision, but I'm going to put that together for sure. But I think that's great, man. I think great points, good stuff. Anything else you can think of here with any of the guys?
And if you really have a huge set, you can play Gagnon on FanDuel at $26. Okay, because everyone's going to be on FanDuel for $29. So if you're really looking to differentiate, because Gagnon has such a high strikeout upside, I think that's huge on FanDuel because the points you get for strikeouts. And I have seen Duzen get nearly shut out a few times in the last couple of weeks, even though they're completely loaded. So I just want to bring that up. You got to be, and it's definitely the best hitters matchup, Hitters Park in the whole slate. So I just want to bring that up.
Pitchers Park.
Pitchers Park. Yeah. Pitchers Park. Yeah.
No, I think that's a courageous play. I don't see anything wrong with it. It's definitely going to be contrarian on FanDuel, big time. I think you'll see some ownership for Gagnon for people with the same strategy in DraftKings, but where you only get one pitcher in FanDuel, that's
why I like it. But yeah, that's definitely more of it for the GPP crowd than probably the cash crowd.
You got a much bigger set than Andrew. We've been bashing Andrew today. So, he's going to be loving this. I'm going to text him after and say, don't listen to the show tonight.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's good that we don't agree on everything. We have varied opinions. And you've seen these KBOs. We're up at, 5 o'clock in the morning watching these games and catching them. And there's just crazy stuff that you wouldn't expect will happen. So I think that's why you have some varied opinions on some of these players and some of these matchups here. And like I said, I think the main takeaway that I can't stress enough is you got to try to find a way to differentiate yourself. Like, I agree with you. You don't want to be too cute, but you got to differentiate yourself and take a little bit of risk if you want to try to take down even a smaller tournament or even, feel like you're secure in cash here.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. All right, we're just closing in here in Dallas at the 10 o'clock hour. So I know it's 11 o'clock in your neck of the woods. So
Yeah.
I'm going to get this posted because we only have another, 2 hours until game time.
Yeah.
So plenty of time to listen in here and then join us in the Discord. So we want to thank our sponsors, TVG, where the world goes to bet on races and watch the races. Awesome day tomorrow. Get that 300 risk-free bet by going to DFSCoachTalk.com. BetUS, also our partner for all your wagering needs, and we thank them for their odds and getting everything going there. Quick mention, too, I forgot yesterday for the first time in quite a while. Our charity of choice here is mambaon3.org, MAMBAONTHREE.org, and fantastic charity set up by Vanessa Bryant. Could totally support them. Also, what else is on the docket here?
So on Twitter, definitely follow us on Twitter, DFS Coach Talk. You can follow me on Twitter at DET Sports Shane. DET Sports Shane on Twitter and Instagram. And I also want to mention our DFS Coach Talk Instagram is now live, and it's DFS_Coach Talk. That's Instagram, DFS_Coach Talk. I posted a lot of the NFL podcast alerts on there, pictures of players, and we're posting a lot of our winning lineup. So definitely follow us on that so you can keep up to date on what podcasts are new and what we've done, and also like our winning lineups and all kinds of cool announcements that we'll have on Instagram. So definitely check us out on Instagram as well.
Yes, and you're doing a fantastic job of that. Shane is sort of leading the Instagram charge along with Leighton and some of the other guys, and really looking fantastic. And we're going to start having some giveaways, exclusive to Twitter, exclusive to Instagram, and such. So, definitely subscribe, join into there. Some great information going up as well. If you want to catch me on Twitter directly, I'm at Joe Sarvadi. That's JoeSarvadi. The guy we've been bashing all night, Andrew, is at Language Olympic, just like it sounds. And that's it, man. I think we've got everything covered. We're ready to make some money in KBO. This weekend, the young, handsome guys take over. All us older bald guys get to rest a little bit. So a lot of Santino and Apatria. I think you're on one of the shows too, though, right?
I think that we're actually back on, me and you, on Monday for the LA Lakers, which is going to be awesome. Yeah, so that's going to be huge.
Let's talk a little LeBron and Davis. Yeah. That's awesome, man. I can't wait. That'll be great. So fantastic. Well, man, it was fun. Sorry, I was a little tough on you. I just, it's one of those things. You gotta get people, you gotta give them a hard time a little bit. Or what's the fun of it, I mean, it happens to me all the time.
Like I said, I'll let you hear about it in Discord tonight, or maybe early tomorrow morning.
I'm going to be chewing my nails for every Yang Nam Yo at bat for LG. I can tell you that. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. All right, man. Great show. Great stuff. Thanks for letting me ride you a little bit. That's so funny. But you're doing a great job. Love having you as part of the team. For those members that don't know, Shane was originally a member with DFS Coach Talk, and he just was the stuff he said, the information he put out there, the sharing that he did, he was winning every contest. He was just crushing everything. And we started chatting, and I thought, my God, what a great, great addition. And Andrew and I were talking about it today. I mean, we needed one more piece to the puzzle to feel like, this thing was the best thing since sliced bread, and you were definitely that. So it's fantastic. I wanted to give you that shout out on here, and we really love everything you're doing. And once we get the real American sports back and we're all flying, and we've got NBA, MLB, and NFL all going, it's going to be fantastic. So thanks for the work you're doing, and it's great to have you as part of the team, man.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Well, that's it, man. For Sugar Shane Caldwell and Andrew Hansen, I am Coach. We will catch you again tomorrow when we look to crush it in DFS.